Well, let's go ahead and jump in and get started. So first of all, I'm Alana Davis, your host and meetup organizer. I work with e-commerce shops to remove friction from the buying process. My focus is on rescuing Shopify websites, making them more effective in attracting more visitors, providing better SEO, and increasing conversion rates at a fraction of the cost of a full redesign. Here is a quick look at our agenda today. The session is being recorded, so assuming everything works out, I'll be able to share the video in the next day or so. And we do have a lot to cover, so I want to make sure that we go ahead and get started. First, a quick shout out to our sponsors. Jason LD for SEO transforms your SEO with rich results, a program that allows you to show search enhancements such as review stars, price, and availability in Google search, Bing, Pinterest, and other search engines. And then, of course, we all know Shopify. It's more than just an e-commerce solution. You can sell anywhere to anyone with Shopify's e-commerce platform and point of sale features. And I will share their links for you in the notes in just a second. Upcoming events, we have later this month, I'll actually have a guest host so that I can share how search enhancements can increase your organic traffic without changing your rankings. And then in April, we'll welcome Leanna from Punchline Copy to share 9 ways to write higher converting copy without sounding sleazy, which I am super stoked about. So if you do have any topics or things you want to discuss or areas you want us to explore, please let me know in your feedback that you're gonna get a feedback request later today or tomorrow maybe. But if you can let me know that it's different things that you want to explore, that really helps me to make sure that I know that we're talking about things that you actually want to talk about. And it also helps me to know what's working well or not so that we can make sure that we're providing a valuable resource to you. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker for today. Katie is the head of business development at CartHook, and she is going to chat with us today about post-purchase strategies for your Shopify store. Welcome, Katie.
Some things to think about, and then also share some examples that we've seen at CartHook that have performed really well for the merchants that we work with. And I'll leave plenty of time for Q&A and next steps. So definitely feel free to type in any questions that you have in the chat, and we'll make sure we get to those in the Q&A portion. So I also just wanted to provide like some really high level context of who CartHook is in case you haven't heard of us. We are actually based in Portland, but our team is, fully remote now, especially with COVID. We're all over the world actually. But we've been in the Shopify ecosystem for about 5 years now. We have had a few different apps and a few different iterations of our app. And with that, we process more post-purchase revenue than really any other Shopify app out there. We have a super close relationship with Shopify. We're a Shopify staff pick. We are a Shopify Plus certified app, although you don't have to be on Shopify Plus to use post-purchase offers. You can have any type of Shopify plan. And that's the case across the board for any post-purchase app that you may be using. And yeah, just in general, we love working with Shopify stores. Our team is super hands-on. If you have any questions, definitely feel free to reach out to us. I'll have my information at the end of the presentation too, if you just have, more customized questions for your store specifically. So I also wanted to just provide some context about average order value in AOV, especially from my perspective, working in the tech space for the last few years, and then also on the brand side of things. I feel like I've been hearing AOV just come up more and more in conversations with brands in the last few years, especially with, everything going on with COVID. There's just a lot more people shopping online. And I'm sure, if you own a Shopify store, you've probably seen that just a lot more people are shopping online. But with that, there are a lot of, outside things that are affecting your operational costs. So labor costs, supply chain, shipping costs. A lot of the brands that I've worked with have seen, all of those things also increase over the last couple of years. So, all kind of eating into profits, and then also just your sustainability as a business. And so average order value is really so important because it is really all about you maximizing and making the most out of every single order and every single person that's placing an order on your site. And it's not only about the health of your business and making sure that you have a really healthy AOV, but hopefully also improving the experience for your customers as well. So maybe introducing them or cross-selling them to other products in your store that they may, really enjoy or work really well with the products that they're already purchasing. And so what is a post-purchase offer specifically? I actually get this question a lot. And when you search offers in the Shopify App Store, you'll probably see hundreds of different apps pop up. There are a lot of different places on your Shopify store that you can show your customers an offer. I mean, I've seen offers on the home page, on product pages, cart pages, checkout page. And what makes CartHook unique, and then also just this new post-purchase feature in general, is that these offers come in within your Shopify checkout funnel. So the new post-purchase capabilities from Shopify allow you to show your customers up to 2 post-purchase offers between your Shopify checkout page and your thank you page. So they're coming after the customer checks out, which is kind of unique. This has really just been launched in the Shopify ecosystem in the last year or so. And how it works is basically what Shopify does is they actually tokenize the customer's payment information. So it allows for true one-click add-ons to your customer's order. So if you show them an offer and they accept it, they don't need to re-enter payment or shipping info. And Shopify will actually just bundle that order up with the initial order. So it's only creating one single order in your system. So it just makes it really seamless and easy for the customer, and then also for you as a merchant. And like I mentioned, in the last year, Shopify has essentially released these new post-purchase capabilities. Our app is just, one of the apps that offers it. There's a lot of different apps where you can use or integrate post-purchase. But what I'm seeing on my end is that post-purchase is kind of becoming part of this tech stack essential for Shopify stores. I think a lot of stores are familiar with things like email marketing or SMS, payment processing options like Shop Pay or PayPal, a lot of different rewards programs. And we're finding that more and more stores are incorporating post-purchase offers into that, tech stack essential for their store, because it really is, easier than ever to start integrating that into your store setup. The setup itself is really quick and easy. It takes, really just a few minutes to set up one of these post-purchase offers. And it's, at least our app is completely no code. So it doesn't require a developer to set up, even to design your pages. It's really straightforward. And so some of the ways that we find that post-purchase offers can really impact AOV for Shopify stores is, one, just by increasing your revenue. We see on average merchants adding a post-purchase page within their checkout funnel are unlocking an additional 10% in total revenue on average. So, pretty significant. And when you think about that, that additional revenue can help you, maybe invest more in customer acquisition costs or inventory, really whatever you need to start growing your Shopify store. So it can be, really impactful. And we certainly see significantly higher than that 10% number too. That's just what we see on average. The other big piece with post-purchase is that you have zero risk of affecting checkout conversion. So like Alana is, she focuses a lot on conversions, and that's really, when you're having a customer come to your Shopify store, that's the most important thing, making sure that whole checkout process is really seamless, getting the customer to that point of checkout. When you're showing your customers lots of pop-ups, for example, on the checkout page, you could risk overwhelming the customer as you're trying to get them to check out. So with, an app like CartHook and with post-purchase, you are showing your customer the offer after they've already checked out. So you're not, again, affecting that checkout conversion in any way. The whole process is super frictionless. So like I mentioned, your customers don't need to re-enter any payment info or shipping info to add on additional items to their order. We're really just taking advantage of Shopify's edit order capabilities. So it's just editing the original order and adding on additional items. And I'll talk about this a bit when we get into strategy, but we find that post-purchase can actually really enhance the customer experience. We find the most successful offers are really successful when you're showing your customer something that's super targeted for them. So for example, we work with Magic Spoon cereal. If you're not familiar with them, they have a lot of really fun cereal flavors. They're always launching new flavors. And what they tend to do is feature one of the new flavors in their post-purchase sequence. So, try our new flavor or add our new flavor onto your order for a discount. So it's really fun kind of for the customer. They get to try something new and hopefully can also help boost that customer experience and maybe get them to come back because they're trying a new product that they may really like. And then the last piece of this is that we really love post-purchase because it's perfectly timed and targeted. I think that we're all kind of familiar when you're shopping online and you hit checkout, you kind of have that high excitement level of when you completed that purchase. And that's exactly when you're showing the customer that super targeted offer that they can add on to their order. And with CartHook and a lot of the other solutions out there, you can really target exactly what you're showing the customer. So within CartHook, we worked with Shopify and a lot of different options. So you can trigger offers based off of items that are in the customer's cart. You can trigger offers based off of the cart value. So maybe if the cart's over $100, you show a higher value offer. If it's under $100, maybe you show a lower value offer. You can also even target your offers based off of customer tags, product tags, or even customer location, which is really cool. So there's a lot of great options. So you can really make sure that the offers you're showing your customers are hyper relevant. So getting into strategies, I wanted to just kind of give a high level of some of the strategies that I've seen work really well for merchants, and then I'll dig into these a bit more and give you some tips of how you can start thinking about and building what your post-purchase strategy may look like for your store. So the first strategy that we see a lot is what I call bundling. So, a common example would be, say your store, you sell socks or you sell shoes. Maybe in the post-purchase sequence, you show your customer a pair of socks that they can add on to their order. That's really common. We actually do work with quite a few shoes brands and accessory brands, and they tend to use this bundling strategy quite a bit. The other strategy that we see pretty commonly is this BOGO strategy. So buy one, get one. I get a lot of questions from stores that maybe only have one or two products that they sell. And this BOGO strategy can actually work really, really well if you have maybe just a handful of products in your store, or maybe you have one hero product. I love using the example. We've actually been working with this really cool outdoors brand in Portland. They sell, their hero product is blankets, like for camping. And they initially were using kind of just an accessory item in their post-purchase sequence. And they weren't seeing super high conversion rates on that. And we worked with them on a strategy, and they actually started showing a second blanket in the post-purchase sequence for a discount. So using that BOGO strategy, and they saw way higher conversion rates on that. It's kind of that more of the same strategy. If the customer's already purchasing that item, they're more likely to buy it again. And of course, with the BOGO strategy, you're really increasing that AOV quite significantly. I mean, you're almost doubling, the average order value for that order. So that can be really powerful. The inventory management strategy is another really cool one. I've heard of a lot of stores that maybe have had to buy a lot of inventory to make sure, maybe they're stocked up for the holiday season, or maybe they launched a seasonal SKU that they really need to make sure is moving. You can kind of think about that for your post-purchase sequence. I've seen actually one of the soda brands that we work with, they had a seasonal flavor for winter, and they've been featuring that in their post-purchase sequence just to really make sure that that product is moving. The volume strategy is another really cool one. You can trigger post-purchase offers based off of how many items are in the customer's cart. So maybe if the customer only has one item in their cart, that's when you want to show an offer. Or if they have several items in their cart, maybe you give them a free gift or a sample or something like that. The value offers is also really cool. Typically what I think about here is thinking about what your current average order value for your store is. So maybe your current AOV is $50. So maybe you have one offer for orders over 50 and then one offer for orders under 50. You can layer that trigger in as well. I love the sampling strategy. We work with a lot of beauty brands. This can be a really effective strategy if you're in the cosmetic space, for example. One of our best performing brands, they actually sell deodorant, and they're constantly launching little mini sizes of their deodorant with new, scents, formulations. And it's really just a $5 add-on, but they see really, really high conversion rates with that sampling offer. And so, if you're seeing 50% conversion rates, even if it's just a $5 add-on, that can be a pretty significant impact to your total revenue and then also that AOV. And then I love the gifting strategy too. So I didn't mention this yet, but with the new Shopify post-purchase capabilities, you're actually able to show your customers up to 2 offers between the checkout page and the thank you page. So sometimes what I see stores doing is maybe on the first offer page, they're showing the customer a gift that they can maybe just add on a free gift or a free sample. And then on the second offer page, that's when they're showing the upsell that, is still targeted, but that's something you can think about as well. So diving in a little bit deeper to start thinking about strategy, I know it can be a little overwhelming to know, where exactly to start, but typically what I recommend is when you're just getting started with post-purchase, maybe just create one post-purchase offer based around your hero product. So what is your best-selling product for your store? Really think about that. Typically stores have one or two or, a small handful of bestsellers. And I think that's a really good place to start when you're thinking about this post-purchase strategy and build that post-purchase strategy around that hero product. And so once you kind of have that hero product in mind, I think probably the first strategy you can think about is this bundling strategy. So think about products that pair really well with that hero product. So, I was mentioning the shoe company that we work with, that by far and away is their best seller, but they do have some really great accessories like socks. And so, thinking about what pairs well with that hero product, that's a really good place to start. And I see this work really well with a lot of, clothing, accessory brands. I was working with a workout company where like a sports bra is their bestseller. So they were pairing, their sweatpants or their leggings with the sports bra. So that can be a really great place to start. And then the other strategy, depending on what your product offerings are, is thinking about this BOGO strategy. So I mentioned, some of our stores find that this can be really, really powerful. Actually, one of our best performing brands, like I mentioned, they just have one single SKU. They sell supplements. They just have kind of their one supplement product. And this BOGO strategy works really, really well for them. I mean, basically what they're doing is just on the offer page, they're using that stock up and save language. So, maybe add on a second bottle or a third bottle for a discount. And again, that is sometimes doubling or tripling, the AOV for each order. And this is one of my, one of our great clients, Avi. If you haven't heard of them, they are in the supplement space. They have these really cute, kind of fun flavored supplement products. And this was just a tweet that I thought was fun from them. And they did a lot of testing on their offers. And they found when they simply just offer the same exact product that the customer purchased at a discount, it outperformed any other offer that they tested. And we find that this can work really well, particularly in, the supplement or food space. But like I said, I was working with that outdoors brand where they sold blankets. That's their hero product. And this worked really, really well for them too after testing. So it's not necessarily, vertical specific. So the other strategy that I haven't really talked about yet is subscriptions. So some of you may have seen there have been a lot of big updates in the subscription space as well. Shopify now allows merchants to sell subscriptions all within your native checkout funnel. So if you've used some of the subscription apps, maybe like Recharge, you may have seen that your customers have to check out through the Recharge checkout if they're purchasing a subscription. With a lot of these big Shopify updates, you can now sell subscriptions to your customers, and everyone checks out through the native Shopify checkout. And with some of these big updates, it now allows you to incorporate subscriptions into your post-purchase sequence as well, which can be incredibly powerful. I mean, not only are you boosting their average order value for your orders, but you're also building that lifetime value for your customers as well. And similar to our normal offers, there's still one click. So the customers don't need to re-enter payment or shipping info to add on a subscription to their order. So I love this example, of a store maybe selling coffee. So maybe the customer purchases, a bag or a few bags of coffee in their initial checkout. And then maybe in the post-purchase sequence, you encourage them to subscribe to your Coffee of the Month Club, and maybe they get a slight discount on your first month. This could also work really well. Maybe you sell coffee creamer and you want them to add on a subscription of your coffee creamer. So, again, building that AOV, but also really building that LTV for your customers as well. So powerful to get those customers, continuing to come back. And these are just a few examples of what we're seeing in the Shopify ecosystem for how Shopify stores are using subscriptions and thinking about subscriptions. Bev, they're one of our clients. They sell wine, these really cute, canned wines. They have lots of different flavors and varietals of wine that they sell, and they incorporate subscriptions pretty heavily. So for example, maybe a customer purchases one case of the canned rosé, you could encourage them to add on a subscription of the rosé to their order, or maybe, a subscription of their Wine of the Month Club to the order. I also really love this for subscription boxes. So, maybe you already have a subscription offering on your site for a subscription box, but maybe you have some excess stock of a pass box. You could, maybe the customer adds on one of your pass boxes to their order. And then we also see this a lot in the cosmetic space as well. I mean, I love the Dollar Shave Club example. If a customer purchases, the shaver or the razor, maybe you're encouraging them to add on a subscription of the refills for the razor, or maybe add on a subscription of, the shaving cream. So there's a lot of really cool options here. And with this feature, you can be using any subscription app that is compatible with the native Shopify checkout. So, that includes apps like Recharge, but there's a lot of subscriptions apps out there. As long as it's compatible with the Shopify checkout, you can use it with post-purchase as well. So digging into the inventory piece, this is another really powerful strategy to think about. I think especially right now, I've just been hearing of a lot of brands that have had to maybe purchase a lot of stock, or maybe you just get a lot of cost savings when you buy, product, in higher quantities. This can be a really powerful tool to make sure that that product is getting in front of customers. So like I said, I see this a lot with like seasonal flavors, but it also can work well, maybe if you sell jewelry or something, maybe you guys have a lot of excess stock of a certain style that you're showing your customers at a discount in the post-purchase sequence. And one example of this that I love is Glade Optics. They're one of the clients that we work with, and they sell ski apparel. So, things like goggles and helmets. And obviously the winter season is really their high season, but they really, in the off season, so in, the summer period, they're really showing, some of these more seasonal items at a pretty significant discount. It helps them, offload maybe some seasonal products, but really helps them with cash flow and LTV for their customers. They've said that it really, allows them more wiggle room on things like customer acquisition costs, which have been, just continuing to increase over time. And so, can definitely help with cash flow if your business is more of a seasonal business. And then the last piece I wanted to mention is this A/B testing piece. So this is a new feature that we worked on as well with Shopify, and it really allows you to split test essentially your offers. So like I mentioned, in the CartHook app, all of the offers are no code, so you can build them out without, a developer. And with the A/B testing feature, you can, for example, split test different offer page designs or different offer headlines. You can also even do testing with different discounts. I mentioned the outdoor brand that we've been working with. They were running some tests with that accessory item. and they were just not seeing the conversion rate that they wanted to. But then they started doing some testing using that Bogo strategy, and they saw significantly higher conversion rates with that. So definitely recommend and encourage testing. Like I mentioned, maybe you're just starting out with 1 or 2 offers, doing some of the split testing, seeing what is really resonating for your store, your products, and your customers. And then once you kind of have that good strategy and some data, start rolling that out maybe to the rest of the products in your store. I think is a really good way, to get started. All right. So I know I just covered a lot in terms of strategy. It looks like maybe we're getting some questions coming in. So yeah, wanted to open it up to Q&A.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions that are coming in here. I wanted to just circle back to James because he just asked this recently and I addressed it in the comments, but maybe you can expand a little bit more on this question. So you don't need recharge to do the subscription. You can do it all through CartHook and Shopify. That was his question. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, for sure. So you will need to be using some type of subscription app. It just doesn't necessarily need to be recharged. There's a lot of different, subscription apps out there. As long as the subscription app that you're using is compatible with Shopify's latest subscription APIs, then you can integrate subscriptions into the post-purchase sequence, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I think really what it is, the biggest difference I think that I've noticed is that before you had to really depend on apps to have a good flow in their checkout, and now you don't have to worry about that. So they have the exact same checkout experience. You're not depending on another app to do that process. It's just a matter of the tool to actually do the subscription.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you've been in the Shopify ecosystem for a long time, you've probably seen and experienced, in the past, Shopify stores would have to manage a few different checkouts to be able to incorporate things like subscriptions or post-purchase. And now with all of these big Shopify updates, you can manage all of that within your native Shopify checkout. And so with the subscriptions, you can actually manage all of the subscription frequency, pricing, all in your Shopify product settings. You no longer have to manage it in like a third-party app. And then within CartHook, if you have that subscription capability set up, it's really just a toggle on our end if you want to toggle on subscriptions into your post-purchase funnels, essentially.
Yeah. And then maybe you can talk a little bit. I don't want to get into the crux of like CartHook and go into too much detail, but I think a lot of people know CartHook historically is a very different app than what it is today. So maybe you can share a little bit about who you were and who you are today and what that difference actually is.
Yeah, that's a great question. So CartHook, like I mentioned, we've been in the Shopify ecosystem for a number of years. There have been a few iterations of our app. And if you're familiar with the legacy version of CartHook, it was essentially a Shopify checkout replacement app. So we actually fully replaced the Shopify checkout and allowed merchants to add and incorporate post-purchase offers within the CartHook checkout because Shopify didn't have that capability previously. And so in the last year or so, Shopify has been working with some select apps like CartHook, like Recharge, to essentially build in that functionality within the native Shopify checkout funnel. So the app that I kind of talked about today and some of those new post-purchase capabilities are all within the new native version of CartHook post-purchase offers. And so, just some of the benefits of that is you no longer need to manage multiple checkouts. Merchants don't have to have multiple different payment processors connected to be able to offer post-purchase or things like subscriptions. Post-purchase and subscriptions are now compatible with Shopify payments and Shop Pay. And then just that setup process is a lot easier. So if you've ever used like the legacy version of CartHook, it really required a developer for the most part to get set up. It was pretty custom, whereas the new version is completely no code. So it doesn't necessarily require a developer to get set up. And, you can really set up that offer page in like a few minutes.
Perfect. James, I do see your question. I'm going to come back to it in a second about pricing because I don't want to get into too much detail again about CartHook, but it kind of ties into another question that I have. So I'm going to come back to that in a few minutes. Orion asked if you have any tips on how to make the post-purchase upsell feel in line with the higher end brands. How do we keep it from looking like an infomercial?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So a few things to think about. So, I mean, of course, the design piece of that, I think, previously, sometimes you've seen upsells and it has been a little bit infomercially. Sometimes you've seen it a lot on like, supplement brands, for example, or health brands. What I've seen a lot of higher end brands do is, first of all, think about the design. So within like CartHook and a lot of the offer apps, you can customize the design so it looks really consistent with the look and feel of your Shopify store. So with the new Shopify capabilities, most of the post-purchase solutions will actually pull in design elements that you've already set up within your Shopify checkout store. So things like fonts, background colors, header, footer formatting, button formatting, it will just pull into your offer pages. So it looks consistent with your checkout funnel. And then like within CartHook, for example, you can also input custom offer images. I've seen a lot of like DTC brands where they're maybe working with their graphic designer to design like really beautiful offer images that look consistent with the rest of maybe like your social and marketing materials. And, again, it just helps make that offer look really consistent. And then, of course, I would definitely think about, what exactly you're offering as well. Like I'm some of the examples, we worked with like Native Deodorant, for example. So, kind of in that DTC space, they have a really beautifully designed website. Their offer was they would do a lot with like the sampling. So encouraging their customers to add on like a trial size of the product. And I think that worked really well for them. It was fun for the customers. It increased the AOV, but it felt more like they were trying to improve the customer experience in trying to allow the customer to try a new item versus just like make more money off of them, if that makes sense. And I have seen, some pretty high-end brands incorporate post-purchase upsells. Like, for example, we work with a golf store where they sell golf clubs. So obviously like a pretty high-end item, and they have a pretty high AOV. I want to say their AOV is somewhere in between like $300 and $400, but they're really focusing on that bundling strategy. So encouraging customers to maybe add on, like a case set for the clubs or like a golf club cleaner, things that enhance the customer's purchase. So that would be what I would think about is design, number one, how you're framing the offer, and then just making sure you're finding an offer that fits in really well with, your customers in your store.
Yeah. And something that you said earlier too, I think is what made me originally think that was very infomercially, if you're not careful,
Yeah.
is the graphics that you're using. So if you're a higher end brand and you put imagery at the end of for your post-purchase checkout, make sure it's not like, but wait, there's more, because that's where it feels weird and it just feels like you're trying too hard. So a lot of that is about your branding, I think, as to how pitchy it feels.
Yes. Yeah. It's such a good point. I mean, sometimes like for some brands that works really well, like I definitely have seen that a lot, but you can customize the headline, the button text, your photos to fit your brand. So, I've seen some of the more infomercially offers that work really well for some stores. And then I've seen some super high-end brands like Magic Spoon. I mean, I think Magic Spoon, their design is gorgeous, super elevated, and they found a strategy that works really well for them.
I think that's another good point too. Testing it out, seeing what works, what doesn't. I think that copying somebody else's is one way to structure it, but ultimately like everyone is going to be different and every store is going to have a different offer. So like if you're not sure where to start, like you can mirror off somebody else's, but don't copy it word for word. Just don't do that.
Yeah, and like we didn't talk too much about like the discount strategy. I do get that question a lot. Like, do we have to offer a discount? What type of discount do we offer? And you don't have to show a discount on the post-purchase offer. You certainly don't have to. And if you're not the type of store that typically offers discounts, maybe you don't. Maybe you experiment or do some testing to see what your conversion rates are like. If you're not seeing as high of conversion rates as you want and you have, the margins, maybe experiment with like a slight 10% discount or, 15, 20% discount. The important thing to note is that this discount, it only applies to the post-purchase offer, and it's not something the customer would see anywhere else in your site. It's just something that's seen post-checkout, which is kind of cool.
So Matthew asked, is there an optimal amount of time to leave an offer available to add to an order? So do customers revisit conversion pages And how might this work if we process orders out of Shopify to back-end systems, say every 30 minutes on a set schedule?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So, how it works within the Shopify setup is that basically Shopify has incorporated a new fulfillment status called on hold. And so, when the customer places their order, you'll see that order show up in the Shopify order settings immediately. And then Shopify gives customers up to essentially 60 minutes to complete that funnel. So, say they walk away from their computer or click out of the page, that order would show as on hold for up to 60 minutes. I will say that the vast majority of orders are moved from that on hold status to the unfulfilled status like pretty immediately, like in less than a minute. But that's just kind of a built-in mechanism that Shopify's created just to allow for time for the order to be updated. On the CartHook side of things, we give merchants the ability to set their timer for up to 10 minutes. You can set your timer between 1 and 10 minutes. Typically, I like 5 minutes. We have a little countdown that you can add if you want. You don't have to. But yeah, it's between 1 and 10 minutes that you can set it on the CartHook side of things for your customers. And then in terms of how it works with other apps, Shopify has released some guidance for Shopify stores that maybe are using different fulfillment apps, or maybe you have like a CRM app that you're using, like you said, where orders are getting pushed in after a certain period of time. For the most part, apps are now compatible with this edit order capability we found. It is something that Shopify pushed out to all third-party apps to make sure that they're compatible with their latest fulfillment guidance. And then I've also seen some workarounds, maybe where you set up like a up to 60-minute delay of when your orders are pushed in to a third-party app. That's something I've seen commonly as well. But if you have any questions about that, always feel free to reach out to our team or Shopify, and we can help sort through any questions.
Perfect. James asks, what is the thinking around double offers? I've seen some sites that offer multiples. Is there any data showing best practices around how many offers to provide? And does CartHook do multiple offers?
Yeah, that's a good question. So with legacy CartHook, we actually allowed for merchants to show up to 6 offers, which I think is a lot. When we worked with Shopify on the new capabilities, our data showed that the conversion rate dropped off pretty significantly after 2. And so that's where that 2 offer limit comes up. And that's across the board with Shopify. Shopify only allows you to show your customers up to 2 offers. In terms of data, I mean, it really depends on your strategy. I would say most commonly, especially if you're really concerned about the customer experience, I typically just see 1 offer. That said, that second offer can be helpful. Like for example, we allow you to set upsell, downsell logic. So say you show the customer the first offer and they decline it, maybe you take them right to the thank you page. But if they accept the first offer, maybe that's when you show them the second offer. And I also mentioned that free gift setup. That's something that I've seen brands doing more and more. So maybe on the first offer, you're just letting the customer add on a free gift or like a sample. And then the second page is when you're showing them maybe an item that they could add on to their order. So I would say it definitely depends on your strategy. I would say the stores that I typically see using the second offer tend to be in like the cosmetic space, or maybe you have a lot of SKUs, like you're in the apparel space and you just want to give the customers more options.
Perfect. And then the question that I had as I was listening to this, is there a benchmark that you expect people to hit before they offer post purchases? Or is that more of it should be open to anyone and everyone who wants to participate? Like, is there a certain amount of things they should be accomplishing before they offer this?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I think with our legacy app, we tended to see more established Shopify stores incorporating post-purchase. But with the new capabilities, I mean, I think one of the biggest benefits is it has really opened it up to any Shopify store. So you don't necessarily have to be in Shopify Plus. You can be, brand new to the Shopify ecosystem. It is a no-code solution. So you don't have to have coding experience to set it up. I mean, obviously, if you're wanting to maybe do more advanced A/B testing or use some of those custom offer images, it can be helpful to maybe have a designer, things like that, but it's certainly not required. So yeah, it really is, I think, open to any Shopify store. Our pricing is based on actual added revenue. So you can really make your money back pretty quickly. I mean, even stores that are processing just maybe 1,000 or a couple thousand a month tend to make that subscription fee back pretty quickly.
Perfect. Marnie, I'm not sure are you talking about with post-purchase? How do you get started with post-purchase in Shopify, or how do you get started? Okay. Can you share a little bit about that? How do you get started with post-purchase in Shopify?
Yeah, so with the new native Shopify integrations, I mean, you really just need to search for post-purchase in the Shopify App Store. I think there's even maybe a category now that you can select. On the CartHook side of things, we have a free trial, so you could test completely for free. I think most of the apps, out there have free trials, so it's a really easy way to kind of just play around and test and see what works for your store, completely for free. And then one other thing I should note is that especially if you are testing multiple apps at the same time, there's a new setting in your Shopify checkout settings that you'll have to toggle on the post-purchase page within your Shopify checkout settings. So you just go to Shopify checkout settings, and then you'll see there's a little post-purchase toggle that you'll toggle on.
I just thought of another one too. I don't know, with the new markets that's come out, for those who don't know, markets is out and it allows you to sell to folks across the world in different, using different languages and different subdomains, that sort of thing. I'm curious how post-purchase impacts, if it does at all, with markets.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So with post-purchase, and this is across the board with any, post-purchase functionality. So your post-purchase offers will only show to customers that are checking out with whatever your native currency is that you've set up. So if that's US dollars or euros or, whatever it is, any customers checking out with that primary currency will see your offer. If you have customers checking out with a currency that is not your primary currency, they just simply wouldn't see the offer. So it really shouldn't, affect having that set up. Shopify has confirmed that they're looking into multi-currency solutions for post-purchase. I just don't have an ETA on like when that's going to be launched. And that is actually very similar for how it works with like unsupported payment processors. So post-purchase is basically compatible with any credit card processor that Shopify supports. They've also enabled access for like Shop Pay and PayPal. I believe next on their roadmap is Apple Pay and Google Pay. But say a customer is checking out with like Afterpay, they just simply wouldn't see the post-purchase offer. So you can have, those other bells and whistles set up. It's just that 100% of your customers may not see the offer in that case.
Good to know. That's great. So I think that's all the questions that we have. If anyone else has something, is there an easy way for them to reach out, or where can they find you?
Yeah, this is my info. So yeah, feel free to reach out if you have, specific questions about your store. We're always happy to do like strategy sessions on our end as well. The Shopify, site also has a ton of great help feedback as well. Lots of, setup guides, things like that. But yeah, we're here to help, and I'm here to help if you have any questions at all.
Perfect. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. There was a small hiccup in the recording very early on, but I promise we got all of the meat of the presentation. So I apologize for that, but we will definitely get this out shared to you as soon as we can. So thank you so much, Katie, for joining us today. This was so enlightening. I hope everyone got all their questions answered. And like I said, if you have any questions, I did put Katie's email in the chat, so feel free to reach out. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.